state-funded university, not private one.
Excellent. Let's keep in touch, I think.
Yeah, sure. We'll exchange contacts via Mr. Bozhilov and keep in contact.
Yeah, I think it will be a good opportunity.
Sure. Okay, can we start now?
Yes, let's start. I see most of the people who have registered already joined us. Maybe some other will join later, but let me welcome you all who joined via Zoom or YouTube. I'm Jordan Buzilov. I'm president of Sofia Security Forum. Once again, a very warm welcome to this event. I would also like to ask you to mute your microphone. You can, of course, have your cameras on just to see each other. But in order not to interfere with the speakers, I ask you to mute microphones. This event, which is dedicated to security and future development in the Balkans, is co-organized by Sofia Security Forum, the Diplomatic Academy of Kosovo, and Konrad Adenauer Foundation. And I'm very glad that we have such a distinguished partner as the Diplomatic Academy of Kosovo, and I have to thank Ambassador Kichmari for his cooperation and dedication to have this panel happening, and of course for partnership. Let me just present Ambassador Kichmari very briefly. He is a career diplomat and served as an ambassador to Austria and later to Australia. Actually, he is among the first diplomats of Kosovo. Currently, Ambassador Kichmari is strongly committed to ensure higher standards for training of diplomats and strengthening the analytical work of the Diplomatic Academy of Kosovo. He is also professor at the University of Pristina and author of several books, articles, and scientific papers in the field of foreign policy, diplomacy, and social studies, member of the German Society of Philosophy, honorary member of the Graduate Union of at the University of Melbourne, and co-founder of the Albanian Institute of Sociology. So, Ambassador Kichmari, once again, it is great pleasure working with you. And now I would like to invite you for your welcoming words to the audience. Unmute, please. Please unmute the microphone.
Moment.
Okay, it is okay now.
It's okay. Good morning to everyone, distinguished colleagues and guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct pleasure to wish you all a warm welcome to the webinar, Security Challenges to the Balkans, co-organized by the Kosovo Diplomatic Academy and Sofia Security Forum. This webinar is organized with the aim to bring attention to, discuss, and exchange views on the security challenges in the Balkans nowadays. We all know how the outbreak of COVID-19 has changed our way of life and the way we work. It has compelled us to rethink the way we organize our events. Perhaps online conferences, meetings, webinars might lack many of the benefits of an in-person conference, but we are slowly getting used to and accepting the new virtual reality as a new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, Southeast Europe, called more politically than geographically the Balkans, has changed in the last 30 years. The ideological dividing wall has been overcome. none of the countries in our region prefers the one-party system and the controlled market economy. About 75 million citizens of the region have become more mobile, moving from state to state, doing business and spending holiday on the coast. 5 Southeast European countries have been admitted to the European Union: Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Croatia, and Slovenia, all of which are on track to integrate into the European Union. With candidate status, Albania, Macedonia, Serbia, Montenegro, and potential candidate Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina. But despite this positive trend in Southeast Europe, there is another trend that could easily trigger a return to history in the Balkans: extreme nationalism, religious fundamentalism, and the return of Russian influence in the region. Although in terms of security, the vast majority of countries in the region have joined NATO: Albania, Bulgaria, Greece, Croatia, Slovenia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Romania, and Turkey. Kosovo has a clear pro-NATO orientation, while Serbia is not interested in joining NATO and prefers a military alliance with Russia and Belarus. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so delighted to have all of you with us, participating and contributing to the organizing of our webinar. Being aware that we have participants connected from different countries, our respectful guests, diplomats, officials, and representatives of academia and think tanks from the Balkans and EU countries and media gives us the enormous pleasure. I will now give the floor to my respectful colleagues and co-organizer of the event, the head of Sofia Security Forum, Mr. Jordan Božinov. Please, Mr. Božinov, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Kichmari, for your opening remarks and for your cooperation. You have already outlined some of the trends and the risks and challenges to the Balkans. I've just mentioned that last week, together with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, we organized an event on right-wing radicalization in the Balkans, which is again a new tendency in the region. But let me say some more words about security challenges. In my latest article on the Balkans, titled "The Western Balkans Anchored into the Past or Moving Forward Towards European Future," I focused on 3 main risks which Western Balkans face. There's a risk of the existence of unresolved disputes, the nationalization of policies, and departure of young people from their respective countries. Of course, there are many other risks, no doubt about this, but these 3 specific risks, they are interconnected and they have significant impact on the future of individual countries, but also to the whole region. And we see that unresolved issues can easily escalate, endangering security, but also putting at risk the lives of people. They also hinder the European parts of the countries. On the other hand, growing nationalism and populism create even greater obstacles to finding solution to any of the existing problems. And they create even more problems to the development of the region and the individual countries. And at the end of the day, they deprive countries of better perspective. And because of this, many young people leave their countries. And I would say that this is exactly the young people, the young generation who can bring this transformative force and to make the region better place to live in, but they leave. And I see kind of vicious circles we entered here in the region, which of course is not leading to the solving of the existing problems. And what is important, of course, leadership and vision. We need leaders with vision how to move forward. And of course, yes, as the title of today's discussion is related to European future and the upcoming EU Western Balkan summit, we have to say that European future, Euro-Atlantic development of the region is our goal. And a lot of efforts are still required, but there are several challenges which at least slow down the process. And one of the issue is the dispute between my own country, Bulgaria, and North Macedonia, which also stopped development and bringing together Albania to the EU. It stopped North Macedonia and Albania from future negotiations. And it is important, crucially important for Bulgaria and North Macedonia, crucially important to leaders to find an acceptable solution with, of course, clear commitments, with clear time frame, and of course, resources to implement what is agreed on. You know, I think that both countries should be forward-looking. And the time factor to me is working against, you know, finding solution to the dispute. So what I believe that we shall put more efforts, we shall engage media, we shall engage civil societies organizations in order to find acceptable solution for both sides at relatively short time, and of course to move forward to the European Union's enlargement to the region. Once again, thank you very much, all of you who joined this discussion. We have excellent speakers, and I really hope to have productive discussions and probably to generate some ideas for the future. Having said that, I would like to turn now to the Deputy Ambassador of Slovenia, the country which currently holds the presidency of European Union's Council. Ms. Barbara Bericic is with us, so I would like to invite you, Madam Bericic, for your introductory words.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you for inviting us to participate in today's online discussion on the upcoming EU Western Balkans Summit that is to take place in Slovenia on 6th of October. Let me just briefly present you Slovenian presidency's position on Western Balkans region. As you may know, Slovenian presidency decided to put Western Balkans region among its priorities. We strongly believe stability and prosperity of the region is in vital and strategic interest of the Union. Union's geopolitical ambitions can only be realized through stable Western Balkans. We also support including the region in discussions on the future of Europe. Regarding the enlargement, we believe that enlargement is not a technical issue. It is a premium geostrategic question. In our opinion, there is no substitute for efficient enlargement policy. It is the only policy which has transformational power and is a prerequisite for stable, secure, and democratic Europe. EU and Western Balkans have many common challenges, such as migration, cyber threats, and climate change, and etc. And in order to successfully address all the common challenges, it is important that the region is firmly anchored in the enlargement process. In this context, even though the EU Western Balkans Summit is not an enlargement event, we want to assure clear messages to the region regarding the European perspective. The fact is that the region is still faced with unresolved issues that hinder stronger regional cooperation. Therefore, at the summit, we need to emphasize the need for good neighborly relations and inclusive regional cooperation. Since COVID-19 crisis continues to have a severe impact on our societies and economies, we also believe that the declaration from the summit should include mutual support, coordination, and cooperation in addressing the COVID-19 crisis. Declaration from the summit should also focus on the socio-economic recovery of the Western Balkans and convergence of the region with the EU in various fields, such as sustainable development, connectivity, decarbonization, research, innovation, and resilience, including the cyber resilience. Also great importance is the implementation of the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans, progress in establishing common regional market, and implementing green agenda. A positive outlook for young people is also among our presidency priorities. Part of the declaration from the summit will also be political and security cooperation between the EU and Western Balkans. We expect further deepening of the cooperation in common foreign and security policy, addressing disinformation and other hybrid threats, migration management, fight against terrorism, radicalization, and organized crime. To sum up, our goal is to ensure a credible European perspective for the region and deliver on common issues in the context of strengthening the resilience of the Western Balkan countries. I would like to conclude by emphasizing once more that for Slovenia, there is no doubt regarding the importance of the enlargement process of the European Union. Western Balkans belongs to the European Union, and this is, in our opinion, a question of consolidating Europe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Bericic. Thank you for giving this clear picture and explaining the priorities of your presidency. I just want to mention that during Bulgarian presidency, Sofia Security Forum advocated to establish formats between European Union structures and Western Balkans countries in order to work closely together. And I think it is even a must now to work closely on issues like security, defense. So I think it can be, of course, one of the ideas on which you can also work during your presidency. On this note, I'm now turning to the moderator and to the core of our seminar, Dr. Plamen Rauchev. He's head of Department of International Relations at the University of National and World Economy here in Bulgaria. He is a well-known scholar and analyst. He's a person who teaches future diplomats, politicians, and as I said, leaders, because we definitely need leaders on the Balkans. So, Plamen, please take from now you, and please go on.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Thank you for my introduction, and thank you for the opportunity and invitation to moderate this interesting and quite timely discussion. Both Mr. Bozhilov and Mrs. Bericic raised very important questions about the dedication to regional ownership of future perspectives of the Balkan region. European integration is such a strategic perspective of the region. And I remembered while listening to the introductory speeches, opening remarks, at the time when I started my professional and later on academic career 20 years ago, I was focused exactly on the future, the prospects, the European prospects of the Balkan countries or Southeast European countries. And it turned out that for 20 years, we are still discussing this complicated process, and we still need to confirm our dedication to this process. Yes, it's a quite deep process. It's not just a technical one. And visionary thinking, commitment, regional commitment. And here I really welcome the remarks of Mr. Buzilov, who mentioned the importance of young people, because actually this will be and this should be their life project. Young people, those who are graduating universities now, are those who are about to complete the process of European integration of the countries of the Western Balkans. And it would be a pity if these young people migrate and leave their countries, their home countries, without this important human capital necessary for the successful completion of the integration process. I can say, based on Bulgarian experience, that the importance of human capital in the European integration process is very important. And once you're in, as in the case in Bulgaria, there were many people involved in the European integration process who continued their career in European institutions. There was a kind of depletion or empty ranks within Bulgarian administration of people competent in EU affairs. So human capital is quite important issue, and I would like to stress on it. Without any further delay, I would like to now invite the speakers on this online workshop panel. And the first one on my list here on the agenda is Ms. Nirvana Delio, who is policy researcher at the European Movement of Albania and adjunct lecturer at Faculty of Social Sciences at Tirana University. Ms. Delio, do you hear us? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for this invitation. Let me express my gratitude and pleasure to be part of this event. This event actually has come in an interesting point and a date, because today even the president of the European Commission started her tour on the Balkans, beginning today in Tirana. I think she now is in Tirana, starting her visit, her official visit in Tirana, and then she will continue with the other countries of the region during the other days. So I think it's a great moment for us to discuss about the future of the Western Balkans in the European Union, and to see how this will proceed, even with the Western Balkan Summit that will be organized during next week. When it comes to Albania, actually, Albania has a long history towards integration, its own integration process to the European Union. It's now a long history when there is a long process, when we have all our ups and downs during this process. And now let's say that we are at a moment that we are waiting together with North Macedonia. We are waiting the opening of the negotiations, let's say the technical opening of this process, with the beginning or starting of the first intergovernmental conference that will function as a moment when the European Union and the candidate countries will introduce their negotiation positions, and then the work can go on with the opening of the chapters. As we know now, the new methodology has clustered these chapters in groups, and then to be opened the first cluster that has even two important chapters, like chapter 23 and chapter 24, that are directly linked with the justice, with security, and other issues linked with rule of law, democracy, and consolidated institutions. In this regard, even though the Council made this decision on March 2020. We remember it was a meeting online due to the pandemic situation that had spread in Europe on the moment. And they decided the opening of negotiation for North Macedonia and Albania. Albania, differently from North Macedonia, had like 15 priorities or criteria that had to fulfill in order to go on with the next process. But still, the discussion in Albania was whether we opened the negotiation or did not open the negotiation, because the situation, it wasn't clear. We couldn't understand what was happening, and what was the consensus during this discussion is that it was mostly a political opening of the negotiation, while the technical one had to wait. And now we have more than 1 year waiting for this process to continue and to go on. When it comes to the issues of security, but even of the future of Albania in the European Union, I wanted to stress 3 points that, to my opinion, are positive elements if Albania shows the opportunity, shows the capability to use them and to benefit from them. The first of all is the majority of our society actually has wide support and positive support towards European Union per se and European integration of the country. If we see the data of Balkan Barometer, for example, of the year 2020, of last year, we see that 84% of citizens in Albania actually support the membership of our country in the European Union. Only Kosovo has a higher percentage than us when it comes to this support. I believe it's something 90% or more. In this regard, this is a positive element to show that actually our society believes in the European Union. We still don't have that wave of Euroscepticism or populism in our country, which means that it's beneficial for the state institution to continue with the reforms, and with this process that we have to say sometimes will be painful and the effects won't be always positive, but there will be some negative cost, of course, for our society. Another positive element for Albania is actually even its foreign policy, which is always aligned with the ones of the European Union. All the annual reports of the European Commission have this positive assessment towards the foreign policy of Albania, when we are always 100% aligned with the foreign policy of EU, but even NATO as well, showing that we have a clear geostrategic policy, that it's always aligned and it's always conform the values and principles of the foreign policy of the European Union as well, something that you don't find maybe in other countries of the region. This makes us actually a factor of stabilization for the region that we should benefit and we should use it for the better, not only for our own process, but even for the stabilization of the region. And the last point is the one that actually was mentioned, youth. Of course, we are now suffering another wave of migration, a hemorrhage of brain, it's called actually, because we see that there is a high percentage of youngsters living, maybe not only in Albania, but even in all the region. We see this kind of phenomenon, and they are the well-educated ones that are more prone now to leave the country and to migrate. But still, we still remain a young country. Our population, average age of our population is something 34 years old. And we have a good percentage of youngsters in Albania. It's like 25% of population is young. So there should be some policies targeted youth for first to make them, to inform them and to include them on the process, and to make them to stay on the country. And on the other hand, there should be other policies to let's say to support the diaspora and to invest on diaspora in order that they could also come and invest in the country. These are those elements that I wanted to discuss about Albania. Of course, I'm open for any comments and questions, and I'm looking forward for the speech of my colleagues concerning their countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Delio. The next speaker on the panel is Ms. Anesa Agovic from the Global Initiative. She is field coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ms. Agovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Plamen. And again, thank you, Jordan, for setting me with this invitation. It is a pleasure to attend again one of your events. I sent you warm regards from Sarajevo, as I am field coordinator for Global Initiative against Transnational Organized Crime. We are civil society from Geneva, and we are based in we are also based in Vienna and Malta. We are a global organization that covers, we can say, global trends. And from my perspective, we have a team for Southeastern Europe and working in the Western Balkans for the last 3 years. We have conducted several of reports on the transnational organized crime and connecting Western Balkans with Southeastern Europe as well as the European Union. It is important to accent how much Western Balkan events, we can say, reflect to European Union and how much everything is connected, and we can say it goes around and comes back here. I will reflect first for the EU report for Bosnia and Herzegovina, because it is important to note that issues that has been noted was once reflected by the colleagues before me in different retrospective. So since Bosnia and Herzegovina applied for the European membership in 2016, we got the opinion and we had a long time working on it. And we can say that in May 2019, the Commission adopted the opinion, and we have now analytical reports on each of the years. But we can say some of the things are repeating, and the international community is multiple times speaking on what we need to do to make the country better for its citizens. It is important to note, as other countries in Western Balkans are fighting with the brain drain. According to economists, in the February 2020, it was noted that Bosnia and Herzegovina is third in the world with the issue of brain drain. It is noted that in the last 6 months in Bosnia and Herzegovina, more than 70,000 people left the country towards EU or US because of the, we can say, jobs opportunity, but mostly one goes to Germany and around the European Union. We have an issue that people with high education and leave our country, and we can say weakens our country with quality people willing to work better for the country. In the European Union report for our country, there was noted the issues that are hindering our improvement as a country, whereas obstructions to judicial from judicial reforms from political actors, and most importantly, corruption in judiciary, where there was a recent event of leaked, we can say, tapped audio recording of the main man for the intelligence agency and the main prosecutor for Bosnia and Herzegovina. They were talking about the cases, and the director of intelligence stated that they are not fighting high-level corruption, rather the small fish. So this is the latest affair in that sense, which is, we can say, showing how much corruption is infiltrated within the country and how much the fight against corruption and organized crime needs to be priority. Such judiciary, which undermines citizens' enjoyment of rights and the fight against corruption and organized crime, is losing trust of the citizens. And it has shown that our country has a low level or no progress at all in the fight against corruption and organized crime. It is needed to say that corruption is widespread and very serious concern, which was multiple times shown by international community and noted. Especially there was a really positive effect of the Office for Quality and Fight Against Corruption, the cantonal level of Sarajevo, which is continuously working and showing that such matter that we can say from local to higher levels can empower the country in sense of fighting the corruption. Also, the police is very vulnerable to political interference, as recent event that showed just 2 days ago, where there was a corruption between border police and the employment. So corruptive employment in state agencies as well as public institution is very common, and we are not eradicating it or fighting it enough. So we need to put more efforts into it. The country needs to improve its capacity and continue its efforts in the fight against terrorism and drug trafficking. It was noted by the EU as well. And according to economic criteria, we have made limited progress, and it is at an early stage of establishing a functioning market economy. It is noted that besides corruption as a fight of organized crime, there was also foreign influence and hybrid threats. For example, the Western Balkans have been target of foreign interference from the late 90s, which was distinguished from this region from others, that this interference from the foreign actors are supported by the acts of local structures. We can say that here we have different impacts of the states of power, such as US-led influence with the EU support. It plays a really important role, especially in the ending wars, and it plays important role in making especially Bosnia and Herzegovina a stable country, and most importantly, providing support for countering security occurrences. And on the other hand, we have China's influence as a great power is still very maintained in the field of economy. Combined influences such as also in misinformation actions on the ground have been recorded in the area. And there was also arrests of the Russian and Serbian citizens who were former members of special and security agencies. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we had issues of departures to foreign battlefields, as from Iraq and Syria to Ukraine. But in the last 3 years, we have no departures. On the other hand, in March this year, we have a Ministry of Security has published information on security for 2018 and 2019 year. There is information on this reflecting on the security, but also it was critics that this information for security is not time manner and it needs to be improved since now is 2021. Regarding cybersecurity, we are lacking for the region. According to the Global Cyber Index, we are ranked 118th in the world and 43rd in Europe. That was a measure of progress toward a global commitment to cybersecurity. We are worst ranked in the region in relation to the countries, while Croatia is the best ranked, although it is outside of the Western Balkan. As cyber attacks are a real threat and they are existing to Bosnia and Herzegovina, they require adequate prevention. And most importantly, there was some of the issues with the cyber attacks to the public institutions, but we can say they have not admitted that was cyber attacks. It is crucial that competent institutions in Bosnia intensify cooperation in the fields of education, exchange of experience, and empowering, especially capacity building in sense of cybersecurity. On the matter of global initiative and our presence in Southeastern Europe, today at 3 p.m. we are having published Organized Crime Index 2021. It will be launched, and we, for the 2 years effort, we are having ranked 193 countries of the UN to show what is the status on the organized crime in each of the countries, showing the profile, to evaluate the crime and the resilience levels in all 193 countries. We need to say that the importance of the Balkan route and the wide portfolio of illicit activities. There are trafficking drugs, migrant smuggling, which is quite, we can say, has presence in Bosnia and Herzegovina since it became some kind of a hub due to, we can say, strength border management as well as pushbacks. We have issue with weapons and ammunition, cybercrime, money laundering, and the illicit financial flows. So criminal networks in the region work closely with each other, and they are quite advancing their collaboration. On the other hand, which is opposite with the public institutions, we are quite slow in that part. And the close linkages there are between organized crime, politics, and business. Violence, extortion, and corruption and organized crime have been infiltrated within the political and economic sectors, which is quite visible if we take, for example, affairs even pre and post COVID, because even during COVID we have corruptive affairs, I think, in almost every country in Western Balkans. And in the matter of migrant smuggling, I will just shortly reflect on that part, because it's a very important issue for all of the countries as well as European Union. One of the most critical hotspots for the smuggling of migrants is Thessaloniki. And as Western Balkan route is now, is very, we can say, popular. After entering North Macedonia, they had north along Corridor 10, which runs from Gevgelija to Veleš to Skopje, and they continue their journey in Serbia or Kosovo. It is important that lately, behind these, we can say, well-established routes that we have closely showed in the report, I will share it in the chat, so you can check out very good maps that our cartographers made that show you even the prices that are happening and where for which kind of smuggling, whether is it within the country or international or for the several passage of the countries. We have made an estimation that total value of the migrant smuggling market in the Western Balkans for only 2020 was between 34 million euros to 50 million euros. And one of the main conclusion is that this amount of money is not staying within the Western Balkans, because we have a typology of migrant smugglers where we have, we can say, locals and internationals, and this money is going somewhere else. Behind the drug trafficking, we have as well the maps and very well, we can say, coordinated and finding their ways, which is also infrastructure within the Western Balkans. I will also share the link for that, so I don't take too much of the time. I will just note that despite of the much, we can say, closure of the Balkan route for the refugees and migrants in 2016, there's also now still a steady flow of people moving to the Western Balkans, trying to enter EU through Croatia or Hungary. Although everyone expected that this goes down with the COVID, according to estimations and the research, that didn't happen. And because of the robust border management and pushbacks, many are getting stuck in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is making a humanitarian crisis. And we can say making migrants to make another routes. And it is feared that this situation may be exacerbated by a further movement of refugees and migrants from Afghanistan. But with the hardening outer borders of the EU, it will only increase the pressure on the Western Balkans and the incentives for the smugglers. So unless we are working more on how to resolve this crisis, this is even better for the migrant smugglers because they are earning the profit. Such a policy also helps the populace in the Western Europe and the Balkans, but it is not likely to provide a sustainable long-term solution to the problem if we are only working on the extensive border management and less on working on the resolving this issue. Too often, the alternative to organized resettlement is organized crime, and huge money is making. And when I said 34 to 50 million, that is only an assessment, which is not a final number, because we made assessment through as well as parts of trying to be where are being used also for money laundering. So extensive report that we made that was published just in May on the one I talked. I will share the link, and it is also available on all languages for Western Balkans besides English. So if you have any questions, I'm at your disposal, and I will share my contacts as well.
Thank you, Ms. Agovic, for presenting really interesting details regarding the smuggling of migrants, and especially all these transnational criminal operations that are quite flourishing in the region. Actually, international organized crime is quite successful in establishing links and making profits of different kind of crises. Thank you once again. I'm sure there will be questions afterwards during the Q&A session and discussion to your presentation. The next speaker on our panel is Mr. Ejup Makidonshif. If I pronounce correctly your name. I'm sorry if I read it mistakenly. Ejup, the floor is yours. He is security expert from the Kosovo Security Force. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Since early, I think that security part is most, if we can say, field that undermines integration of Balkans and peace in Balkan. I will be focused mainly on security issues and strategic issues that are, we can say, disrupting Balkans integration and peace and stability here. If you allow me, I did kind of presentation, short presentation, so we can, I will share with you if it's okay. When we speak for security in Balkans, it's very important to start with history, because as we are all aware, like history played a very important role on, you can say, current situation in Balkans, especially related to security. And this mostly because of diversity, which came in terms of culture, religion, and other issues which are mostly affected by history. So Balkans was ruled by Roman, Eastern Roman, Bulgarian, and Ottoman Empire. We have World War I and World War II. I will not go on deep on this, but all this played important role on current security situation in Balkans. And then we have diversity in terms of religion. So these are major security issues. I took graphics from think tanks. As you see in graphics, there are a lot of unsolved issues in Balkans still now. There are some that fortunately are solved, like problem with Macedonia name, but still there are other unsolved, we can say, issues that really can affect Balkans and Balkan integration in European Union. So major security issues currently in Balkan are Serbia-Kosovo tensions. Currently, I'm sure that you have this information that we are currently still in tensions, and these tensions are increased lastly due to reciprocity and border issues with Serbia. We have Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbian separatism. We have Northern Kosovo, as I said, Serbian parallel structures baked by Serbian government and Russian, we can say, structures. Montenegro, Serbia, church issues, Macedonia, ethnic issues, and other issues related to security and stability that are affecting Balkans still are increase of nationalism, populism, militarization of Serbia that you will see in following slides, organized crime and corruption, weak governments, and recently also tendency for authoritarianism in some Balkans countries. This is military comparison of military capabilities. So as you see, the difference is very huge if we see Serbia. So their budget is 1.51 million, I think billion, namely 2.49% of GDP. And all other countries shown on these slides do not meet half of Serbian capabilities in terms of budget, but also in terms of weapon and military personnel. This shows, I think, kind of tendency of militarization of Serbia which we see really kind of trying to have a hegemonic approach in Balkans. This slide shows mostly external factors and their interest in terms of diplomacy, information, military, and economy. This is DIME, we call DIME in, we can say, security terms, which means the integration of diplomacy, information, and military economy in terms with the aim of achieving their interest. So US and mainly NATO interests regarding to diplomacy is to support EU integration process in Balkans. In information part is to promote free media and Western values. Military part to promote peace and security, and in economic part to support economic development of Balkans. European Union, in terms of diplomacy, aims Western Balkan integration and currently has a really soft approach towards Russia. In terms of information, promotes peace, European values, and diversity. In terms of military, promotes security and stability, and in terms of economy, promotes economic development and free trade. Russia interest in Balkans in diplomatic aspects, it's a tendency of change of international order, extend influence, disrupt European Union, NATO enlargement, and also promote nationalism and traditionalism, mainly Pan-Slavic traditionalism. In information aspect, like Russia interests to have media control, conduct information operations, religious and ideological propaganda, and also fake news. In military aspect, they continue to support Serbia with military equipment and arms systems. And also in economic part, they are trying to continue investments in energy. Turkey also has its own interest in Balkans, mainly kind of promoting regional hegemony, neo-Ottomanism, trying in military aspect to have regional security, and also in economic interest is to promote trade and investments in Balkans. And China, like great power influence, we didn't see so much information and military, you can say, presence of China, but we see everyday trade and investments in economic aspects. This is kind of a map that kind of shows the Russian influence and attempt to influence in Balkans. This is level of Russian influence in Balkans. Major direct and indirect actions of Russia in Balkans are mostly like by influencing. In Serbia, they influence in government and society, investments in energy, support of nationalist Pan-Slavic movements, military support, and they do also diplomatic support. In Bosnia, they supports, we can say implicitly, separation of Republika Srpska from Bosnia, and they see as possibility unification with Serbia. In Kosovo, mostly they support Serbian parallel structures and criminal groups in order to destabilize Kosovo and eventually separate northern municipalities. Montenegro, we saw several attempts to overthrow legal government in the past, and they supported anti-Western opposition during the time. Macedonia, we saw attempt to sabotage Macedonian-Greece agreement. And also sometimes they support Croatian intention to separate Croatian part from Bosnia and unify it with Croatia. I apologize, I'm a little more direct than coming from military background. So ways and means that Russia uses to influence region are mostly, as I said, ideological and religious propaganda, investments in energy, military support to Serbia, intelligence and information. They promote kind of what they see as values, support of nationalism and populism, media control, real estate property purchased by Russian oligarchs, and non-uniformed armed paramilitary group. We saw recently presence of non-uniformed individuals during last issues that we have in northern part of Kosovo. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation and also for being straight, because we need to put things bluntly and straightforward in order to get the real pulse of the dynamics of the trends. Of course, politicians and diplomats, they can use another language and they are used to another language, but NGO forums and this type of non-governmental diplomacy as a second track diplomacy is useful exactly in crossing the lines and opening this frank talk. So thank you very much for your interesting presentation, Mr. Makidonshif. And now we're moving to our next speaker, and I would like to invite Professor Dr. Nicola Dewski, who is Dean of the Faculty of Security in Skopje in the Republic of North Macedonia. We have a steady accent on security. Of course, security is one of the most important issues here on the Balkans. Professor Dewski, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Ralchev. It is a great pleasure to be here with you today. I have listened all speakers before, very important topics, very good points, and I will try to avoid duplicate with most of the discussions, because the Balkans are very related countries, share very same values, but very same problems. Actually, my presentation would be most of the time about opening negotiation for North Macedonia for EU membership. Of course, at the very beginning, I would like to mention and to share my position about the Western Balkans and what can we expect in the near future. According to my personal view, Western Balkans countries at the moment are more far away from EU membership than in 2003, when Thessaloniki summit bring a new wave of relations in the countries of the Balkan Peninsula. Unfortunately, the relations between countries in the Balkans and between all countries with European Union are not very well at this moment. And what happened now? Predictable dangers of destabilization in all countries in Western Balkans are at the next door, much more, let's say, than in 5 or 7, maybe 10 years ago. Let's just mention the cases in Montenegro at the very beginning of September 6, when their old capital Cetinje, and what happened there. All the time we must be aware of Serbia and Kosovo relations and what is happening just nowadays in administrative crossing points in Brnjak and Jarinje, and questions of registration plates of vehicles from northern Kosovo. Our colleague from Bosnia already talked about very strange status of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of course, North Macedonia and Bulgaria issue about opening negotiation and actually Bulgarian veto on our EU path. Challenges and threats to multi-ethnic democracies in the Balkans are as relevant as in the past 100 years. as a result of different geopolitical interests, not only the countries from the region, but also another world powers as Russia or United States, China, Turkey, we can never forget. The Western Balkan countries are facing indecent challenges in integration into their natural European environment. Migration, terrorism, violent extremism, radicalization, organized crime, corruption, all of those will remain the main topics all over the Balkans and, of course, the European Union. What can Balkan countries do and what the citizens are expecting that the countries will follow? Building a better future for the citizens remains a priority. Here I would stress economy, economy, economy. That is the very important issue if we would like to stop drain brain from our countries to European unions. One very good initiative, Open Balkan Initiative, great idea for strengthening cooperation. North Macedonia, Serbia, and Albania, hopefully some other European or Balkan countries will join this initiative, would show citizens what are the challenges, but also what are the good sides of European integrations. Then Western Balkans must remain committed to the values of multiculturalism, open cooperation in the region and with EU member states, further democratic consolidation, and of course, strengthening the rule of law. The strongest commitments for those countries will be to defend a civil, inclusive, multi-ethnic European democracy that will prove that a multi-ethnic society in the Balkans is possible, and that is the only guarantor of the region's security, stability, and prosperity. What about North Macedonia and our path to EU? The main question, will we open the negotiation soon, or we will face another decade of so-called open question? Just a few dates about our EU path. Republic of Macedonia in that period, our official name, appointed a representative in Brussels in October 1992. Then in 1995, we established a diplomatic relation with the European Union. Then came 2001, when Macedonia, North Macedonia, and Croatia signed a stabilization and association agreement. Then in 2005, again, together with Croatia, we received a candidate country status. And in October 2009, for the first time, we received a positive recommendation for opening the negotiations. And I would clearly declare, in the period from 2009 to 2021, nothing has been changed. We are at the very same position as in 2009, still waiting for the decision of opening negotiation. We have heard a lot of support. European Commission, European officials, and others from the Balkans support very much North Macedonia path to the EU. Unfortunately, nothing has been changed in more than a decade. In this manner, a lot of people are hardly waiting the decision of the European Council for opening the negotiation. Let's just mention fulfilling Copenhagen criteria. North Macedonia is undoubtedly a world champion in terms of introduction, fulfillment, correction, promotion, etc. of the Copenhagen criteria in the Balkans, with all the turmoil, success and failures we have gone through in the last 30 years. For example, if human and minority rights are at stake, political culture, as well as formal mechanisms for interethnical and intercultural integration, we could hold seminars on these topics for the next 10 years, not only for the countries of the Balkans, but also for many countries of the European Union, because we are functional, multi-ethnic democracy with no open questions within the country. We solve those problems in this path of more than 2 decades of establishing European values in our society. And of course, for the needs of European integration, at least in the area of the Copenhagen criteria, the homework has long been written, verified, and certified by the European Union. And of course, nothing has changed. And then comes PRESPA agreement. Republic of Macedonia, with constitutional change, changed its name to Republic of North Macedonia. We solved the problem of almost 3 decades. In March 2020, North Macedonia became a 30th NATO member state. All people, included politicians, included in finding solution and signing the Prespa agreement, are very brave politicians and visionaries that help and show how the problems must be solved in the Balkans. And that is a very good example how to solve open questions, not only in the Balkans, but within relation in the world policy. What happened next? Nothing. Unfortunately, nothing. We have another summit of EU, nothing. Another summit of EU, nothing. And now we have a Slovenian presidency. We are expecting to change something. But the situation in North Macedonia has been changed in this period, especially since we changed our constitutional name. According to Eurobarometer data, EU integration support is on a historically lowest level in my country. Only 53% of Macedonian citizens support our integration towards European Union. In the past period, it was never less than 75%. In the last decade, most of the time, between 80 and 85%. NATO membership was always with more than 90% of our citizens declared that they would like to see Macedonia, North Macedonia, to NATO. For the EU, support was always more than 70. Unfortunately, in last 2 or 3 years, the support decreases on now lowest level of only 53%. The researches among our students and their answers to the question, do they see their future in North Macedonia? 3/4 or 75% of our students do not see their future in North Macedonia. It is because of a lot of challenges, not only EU integrations, but the situation within the country, crime, corruption, politicization of the administration, etc., etc. When we ask who are the main 2 challenges of our country, 35% declare that it is economic situation, and 31% declare that it is unemployment rate. What about the name issue and Bulgaria veto? Only 3.7% of Macedonian citizens declare that the name issues is the very important topic regarding their personal life. And only 2.1% of citizens declare that Bulgaria veto is the most important topic in our lives. What can we do? We cannot always talking that we are the best. We can do a lot of things. We cannot and must not stay aside. We must support our society to find the solution, not only for the question with Bulgaria, but also to fight against corruption, to fight against organized crime, to building capacities of professional institutions in order to fight a modern way of crime, to fight against violent extremism, a new migration wave, which is also very predictable. And then, of course, we cannot accept a new extension of 27 years. And for sure, we will continue to build a good relation with all our neighboring countries. Reasonable acting for the European future of the entire Balkan must prevail. Unfortunately, the governments in the Western Balkans are not very supportive to the EU path of their own countries. We must not be hostages of the past and thus destroy the future of the new generations. Just today, the President of European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, will visit Skopje. A few days ago, or 1 week ago, she declares, before the end of the month, I will visit the region and send a strong signal of our commitment to the enlargement process. We owe that to all young people who believe in the future of Europe. We are hardly waiting to see what kind of messages will she pass to our politicians regarding only North Macedonia. Do we have any chances to expect changes? We must not forget, investing in the future of the Western Balkans, is at the very same time investing in the future of the European Union. And that's why all progressive powers in our countries must show much more interest about solving the only open issue that North Macedonia is facing at this time. Academicians, professors, researchers, journalists, media representatives, NGO representatives, and all people who share European values should act now, not after years of another waiting for solving a question that is not related to our future. Let's leave history to historians. They could not solve political issues. Let's support politicians to find a way and to make a better future to the young people. Let's use the Slovenian presidency to find a solution and to open negotiations. We must not spend another 27 years in fulfilling something or anything. That would be the best message for the region. Let's start the negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania, and that would, of course, be a long process, at least a decade, maybe even more, with the new methodology. Of course, we will show to our citizens why EU integrations are very important, and then much more easier to find the solution of existing problems, not only between the neighbors, but also the problems that we are facing all in the Balkans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dewski. As I mentioned in the beginning, 20 years have passed on this enlargement or integration project for the Western Balkans, and it seems nothing has happened, as you highlighted in your speech. Yes, I agree that we should not waste more time in order to discuss things from the past, but rather look forward and try to make a better future. With this being said, I would like now to open the floor for discussion and question session. I'm sure the four presentations and the opening remarks raised many pertinent issues and hot issues, and I guess there will be many reactions to these. So the floor is open. Please just indicate and present yourself, and you can comment or raise a question to some of the speakers. The floor is yours. Do we have questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yona Kabashi. Yes, the floor is yours.
So, from the point of a citizen who I've seen attempts of the government, like especially in Kosovo, prevention there. I've seen attempts of Kosovo to kind of forget the past and try to like move with it in the future and forget its conflicts. However, that hasn't really been like set well with the citizens, because every time they've made attempts of making diplomatic changes, the citizens have criticized them for forgetting the past and kind of not acknowledging society's pain and how it affected them. How could the government kind of form this like middle floor between acknowledging the past and also moving towards the future and having open discussions and making resolutions that what would you suggest that they do so that the citizens also agree that we do have to resolve these conflicts?
I am sorry, I had some interruption in the voice. If I got correctly your question, it was about how governments can provide societal support for reforms, for changes, and for EU integration. If I understand correctly your question, because I didn't hear it very well.
Yes, in regards of making peace with the past.
Yes, okay. Acknowledging the past and making peace. So this pacification of the past and the presence. Okay, probably this is a question to countries and societies that have experienced some conflicts, and especially probably Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, and North Macedonia may need such experience or may share such experience regarding the post-conflict rehabilitation and post-conflict consolidation of societies. I would ask a question to Ms. Agovic regarding what she mentioned as foreign influences in Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially Russian and Serbian security forces, or uniformed security forces and paramilitary groups influences, if I got you correctly, and also the Chinese and Turkish influence in Bosnia and Herzegovina regarding not only organized crime, but also economic activities and various types of economic activities. Do you think these are a kind of diverting factors? So these factors are intentionally in place there to subvert the whole process of European integration, or the future of European integration?
Thank you for the question. I have to say, on the sense of, like, in the case of Turkey, the influence of Turkey is also noted, which is present at the Western Balkans. So true, we can say economic and cultural programs, but Turkey does not have a capacity to play a key or a crucial role in the process at the Western Balkans. There are also influences of the Arab states in terms of economic investments and in the cultural field, but it is a separate action of individual states without some planned or strategic activity that can affect the Western Balkan area. So this is according to, we can say, separate research. But in the sense of, for example, Russia, especially if we compare it to the NATO. So, for example, according to different surveys across the country, we have seen that actually this influence, we can say, somehow is not going in the necessary way of supporting NATO and the NATO integration. So there is, we can say, quite an influence of the Russian from the media to, as we can say, there's several media that are promoting, and there is a true also cultural influence that we see that from, we can say, educational level as well. But in the sense of what is the goal, we have to say that citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially in the Federation of Bosnia, according to different surveys, are very fond to NATO integration, because since war events during 90s, they don't feel, we can say, safe or protected. So we are trying to, as a country, as a citizens, feeling NATO as something that we will be protected from, we can say, further or potential consequences what happened also 90s. So such influence is noted, and we had departures to Ukraine, where we had a case, for example, from a young person from Focha. He was a foreign fighter in the Ukraine foreign battlefield, and later he went to Syria on the pro-Russian side, and he died there. So there are these cases which are showing these different, we can say, directions, and also showing that there is an influence, especially seeing closer Russia and the Republic of Srpska, closer Russia as more than US. Like there is also, when I was doing research for civil society, just a second. When I was conducting research on the civil society, because we have also a report on that, talking with different local researchers as well as representatives of civil society, you can see that, for example, organizations that are supported by the US in Bosnia and Herzegovina, specifically in the Republic of Srpska, they say that they have been seen as traitors or someone who is being paid by the West. But if you state a question that there is a difference in funding by the US because they are very important support, especially to civil society, because they are enabling civil society to be independent and to speak out on many issues that we are countering in the country. It is very important to note that the US Embassy many times showed their support in all the countries in all the parts of the country. But on the other hand, people are seeing you differently if you are showing that you're working in such project or something like that. So I have to say that the people's perspective, especially in sense of EU as well as NATO, is very divided. And according to different research and opinions of people living in Srpska, they are seeing more, we can say, closer Russia. And there's a lot of young people learning Russian language and turning to learning Chinese language because they're seeing them that they will be, we can say, one of the key players here. So this is what I heard from the field, and I think that it needs to be work, especially in the sense of providing young people opportunities to grow and develop, and they are lacking that here. And corruption and organized crime are only making people leave the country, and I believe as the Western Balkan as well.
Thank you very much. That is why focusing and observing closely especially Russian information operations in the Western Balkans, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also North Macedonia. This external influence usually manipulates public opinion and contributes to this split of within the public opinion and decreasing support for the European Union and for NATO. We have also a question to you, Ms. Agovic, in the chat from Gabriela Stanimirova. Do you read it? Can you read it, or I will read it aloud? Do you read the question in the chat session? Yes. Could you?
I can read it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say I will speak only from the perspective of my country. And for example, for the Afghanistan, we are not, you can say, receiving them, unfortunately. I see this decision on our countries, I mean, the Western Balkans, especially in the sense of Albania, showing solidarity is important. And as I said, if instead of resettling, using the method of resettlement, the alternative is organized crime, and that is only making profit to, we can say, human trafficking as well as migrant smuggling. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have to say that we have not dealt with the migration situation very well. That's why we're having issues in the sense of humanitarian crisis, and that's why the people are having lots of different, we can say, opinions on the migrants. So in the sense of like having a safe and secure manner migration, that, well, the region needs to collaborate much more. Of course, that there is a potential, and especially in the intelligence opinion, every migrant is a potential security threat. But if we can say, remove it as a threat instead of analyzing the personnel or, you know, going through the intelligence sources and checking out on all the, we can say, checkpoints, then we could deliver it in that sense. But for that to come in that manner, we need a huge collaboration of the countries in the Western Balkan region, police and security agencies, which is not far if there is a will, but do countries want to work in that manner? The countries need to understand that no one will stop migration, because here we had COVID and it didn't stop it, although COVID stopped the world, we can say.
Thank you, Ms. Agovic, for your very informative and insightful contribution. In the chat, we also have a question from Benjamin Couteau from Jacques Delors Institute. he is raising a very interesting question, and also I can share Bulgarian experience with this about ratification of new accession treaties, how we can persuade EU citizens that new countries, new entrants in the European Union are not troublemakers, because there is such a perception in old EU member states that new member states are taking some benefits, some advantages from the European Union, contributes nothing, and usually troublemakers. So how we can convert this negative public opinion in old EU members, especially in countries where Euroscepticism and anti-EU sentiments prevail. This is also an important question, because it affects not only the readiness and reforms and preparedness of the countries of the Western Balkans to join the European Union, but how the European public in general, the EU public in general, perceive these candidate countries, and how they would be accepted in the Union, in the European family. So this is also an important issue, I think, that we need to raise. And we have questions from Nicola and Martin. Martin, would you join with your question?
Yes, thank you.
Martin Sokolov, yes.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the lovely presentations. My question, and it will be followed by an elaboration, can be formed thusly. Would you say that the EU's honeymoon of strategic comfort is now over? Now, this pertains particularly in the context of wider global developments right now. For one part being that the US, the EU's closest ally, it's shifting its focus more and more from Europe and the Middle East, and countering Russia towards Asia and China specifically. This means that the EU, which had the opportunity to more or less do no wrong, whatever its policies was, it was always valued very highly, as demonstrated about the levels of approval within the Western Balkan countries, that always had this drawing power and can easily postpone decisions on integrations or opening negotiations. But now suddenly this is more and more strategic importance. So basically the question is, can the EU enjoy this level of comfort any longer, or will it have to now act more according to its own interests, and have to act in a more taste matter, I would say? Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Professor Dewski, would you? Yes. I didn't see your raised hand. I'm sorry for this. I don't see the raised hands on my screen. I don't know why. So I just rely on Mr. Bozhilov, who is prompting me, who is wishing to join. Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, I do raise my hand, not to question anything, but to give two comments. First, at the very beginning of the discussion, someone mentioned what about the solving problems within the Balkans? And I would like to mention that Ohrid Framework Agreement from 2001 helped a lot to establish a new way of relation between ethnic groups in Macedonia, in North Macedonia. In 2019, officially, we declared that all articles of Ohrid Framework Agreement, which are now part of our constitution, are solved. We make changes in, let's say, access to the public administration of members of ethnic Albanians in the police, in the army, and all Macedonian government since 1991 were established from the parties from Macedonian, let's say, Macedonian side, and of course, Albanian side, Albanian bloc. And all those issues that were raised up with Ohrid Framework Agreement help a lot, not only to fulfill what need for development of the country, but also calm down all inter-ethnic differences. And now we can, of course, declare, and as I mentioned in my previous presentation, we are a multifunctional and multi-ethnic and multicultural democracy. We don't have open questions between inter-ethnic groups in Macedonia. Ohrid framework agreement was a very good example. At the moment, no one are talking about Prespa agreement. It is past for us. We change our constitutional name in order to become a NATO member state. And only percent or less than percent of population are still very worried about Prespa agreement. Unfortunately, the biggest opposition party are still talking about, but no one can change anymore, not in North Macedonia. And I would like especially to stress the comment or question from Mr. Kotov, and that is the very truth of the integration of all countries of the Western Balkans. Following the French Constitution, every new accession treaty must be adopted by referendum, and that in the last French presidential election, almost half of the voters casted their ballots for populist candidates which are not supporting EU enlargement. That is the main problem of all Balkan countries. Not only in France, but also in the Netherlands and probably in other EU countries. There is no willingness for enlargement of the European Union. Here in the Balkans, we are facing that challenge a lot for a while. And that's why somehow we become aware that EU integrations are much more far away than in 2003 or 2005. What we can do is to further establishing our good neighboring relations. Open Balkans, Serbia, Albania, North Macedonia will give support to the economy and to other aspects of civil society for those countries. And probably that would be the highest level of integration that we will reach in the next decade. Unfortunately, EU are not prepared for enlarging. We must be aware of that, and we must find solutions to cooperate between Western Balkan countries and in separate each country to some of European countries. In opposite manner, probably the census that are nowadays finishing in our country and will show that we are more or less 2 million. Next census will show that we would have young people, students, doctors, professors, engineers, and other professionals not living in North Macedonia, but living somewhere in Europe, as just this case up to the moment. But this process will, of course, become more and more stronger if EU doesn't give their best for Western Balkan countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dewski. Actually, you stressed the double challenge that Western Balkan countries have to face. And this is not only preparing and getting ready for EU membership, but also getting the old EU member states and societies ready for accepting new members. Because I don't think that the European Union as a whole and the old member states are doing enough to prepare their societies, the old member societies, about the accession process and the accession of the accession of new members in the Union. And here the role for public diplomacy and working directly with the societies in these old member states is also very important in order to change their mind. Otherwise, and here I will make a relation to what Martin Sokol stressed. It was exactly this situation that the European Union is out of its zone of comfort. Comfort zone is over, and whatever it makes now, it may be either late or it may be somehow look as quite as a last result. So strategic vision and probably brave steps forward are needed, but I'm afraid there are no such political leadership and political generations in Europe that are ready to take these brave steps. If we go back to Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union and now the Slovenian presidency, we see this continuity of putting Western Balkans and the integration of Western Balkans to the European Union on the agenda of these both presidencies. But once you face disinterested attitude from old member states in the European Union, it is quite hard to push forward this issue. Bulgaria is also a little bit disappointed that it couldn't advance as we wished on this issue during our presidency. Do we have other questions or comments to the presentations today? I don't see any raised hands. If someone is raising hand, please just intervene and join the discussion. Okay, so then it would be up to me to make a kind of a summary to what was said and what we heard today, and I think this type of discussion would have been much better if they took place in presence, in order to get to know each other and to be able to share these ideas and these insights that we have, because they are part of what I mentioned as a second track diplomacy, and this is probably the most important vehicle for advancing the process of European integration. At least I can say it on the basis of the experience of Bulgaria, because not only official diplomacy and governmental efforts are enough to ensure the progress on the European integration track. There is multi-layered multi-layered supportive network that should be in place and should be operative and should be effective in order to make all these integration efforts to a successful point. We heard very interesting points today from our speakers, and I hope they will give ideas and give fruit to think about when official summits take place, because all these NGO activities and NGO networks, NGO efforts and initiatives of different format are important because of this input they may have in formal policy making. So I encourage this type of activities and this type of seminars in order to keep people, informed people on board, keep them connected, because in my view, what we are lacking here in the Balkans is especially these missing links between our own countries. We need more connections between ourselves in order to move forward faster and to reach the desired goal. With this being said, I would like to thank you all speakers, and also to thank Mr. Jordan Bozilov and Ambassador Sabrik Kichmari from the Diplomatic Academy of Kosovo for organizing this event, and of course thank to Konrad Adenauer Foundation, which is also one of the organizers of this online discussion. And I really hope that the messages that we conveyed today will reach to the formal level, the governmental level and the EU level at this new EU Balkan summit. And these incentives and these insights would trigger some fruitful reactions and projections in the policymaking process. Thank you very much once again. Mr. Buzilov, would you like to add some concluding words, or my summary is just the end of this seminar?
I would like to thank all participants for joining this interesting discussion. Of course, a lot of work is ahead of us, and as you rightly pointed out, the issues we are facing with have to be addressed on different levels. Of course, it's up to the politicians to make final agreements, to sign documents, etc., etc. But we have to work at the societal level. I mean, you rightly put it. Track 2, track 1.5 diplomacy. Yeah, it is important, and we have to openly address these issues. And I mean, we can freely speak between ourselves, and we have to be frank. We have to be frank in order to find solutions. Yeah, from our side, Sofia Security Forum is very much committed to working on finding solutions between Bulgaria and North Macedonia. We are very much looking forward really real debates, and only through this we can find solution. And yeah, I think that with Nicola we can also do a lot of together. We have to have on our side media, of course. We have to work on spreading this positive ideas through social networks. So we need influencers. And as you rightly put it again, we have to look at young people's organizations, because it's up to them, to decide in the future, and we have not deprived them from their better future. Dear Ambassador Kichmari, I didn't intend actually to make any conclusion remarks, but as Plamen invited it, you can probably also share your thought at the end of this lovely, very rich discussion.
Your microphone, Ambassador. Your microphone. We didn't hear you. Ambassador? Yeah. Ambassador, we didn't hear you. Oh, obviously, okay. There is a problem.
There is some technical problem, yeah, because I see Ambassador is unmuted, but
he's unmuted, but yeah. We didn't hear. We couldn't hear him. Okay, so he's waving and probably say goodbye. I had here raised hand from Violetta, but I can't see her now.
No, she just sent us a wave.
Okay. Okay.
Can I say one word more, please, Professor Lash?
Violetta wanted to join. Okay.
Nicola is
Nicola.
tempting to.
Yes, Nicola, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just a short sentence. Jordan was very right. We must work together. We must try to find a solution. I strongly believe that people in the Balkans, not only people in North Macedonia and Bulgaria, we are friends. I'm talking about professionals. I'm talking about professors. We have so many contacts, so many together and common activities. Recently, our students from the Faculty of Security, 11 students from our faculty, were in Samokov for in Erasmus exchange, and they were very satisfied with the host of the Bulgarian hosts. They are friends actually. This weekend we had a conference in Ohrid. There are a lot of colleagues and professors from Bulgaria, from Sofia University, from your university, Professor Ralchev. Your vice rector was our guest. We were sitting all the time together, talking all the time together. Actually, we are friends, and we find solutions for what we think is the best for the science, for the research, for the future of our students. We must show to the politicians that they must follow us. No, it is not up to us to follow the politicians, but it is up to them. So I strongly believe that we can find solution to these issues. Thank you. This was a great experience for me.
I strongly agree, Professor Dewski. It's up to us to convince politicians, actually. So thank you very much once again. Thank you very much, Jordan, for inviting me to moderate this lovely discussion and lovely workshop. Wish you all the best and keep in touch and stay safe. Goodbye.